What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to The Fringe. I know talking about Alberta independence is getting a little old. It's going back to the well too many times. However, new developments have shown why this is going to happen and why it's going to rapidly pick up steam. I know we talked about it earlier this morning between alliances with Saskatchewan and Alberta. One of the key things to keep in mind there, I know uranium's a big thing, potash is a big thing with Saskatchewan. Oil and gas is the major outset that's going on here. Mark Carney has just come out to talk about decarbonization. Now, this week, all the premiers met. They all had a little powwow and they sat down and talked about what this country needs in order to be unified. Remember, Team Canada, elbows up, everybody. Mark Carney promised to turn Canada into a superpower, an economic superpower. Well, just as I predicted, just as we all knew, it's nothing more than word salad. He's now come out with no plan. He's put 2-year minimum restrictions on anything being built. Talk about decarbonization. This guy doesn't get it. They don't get it. You're getting what you paid for, folks. This guy literally just killed Canada. It's over. I hate using those two words because I know another YouTuber that uses them all the time, but it's literally over. Alberta will now push for secession, and my guess is that Donald Trump is going to come in and offer Canada, or not Canada, but offer Alberta a deal they can't refuse. Keep in mind that Alberta doesn't even need to wait for a referendum ballot. In fact, Donald Trump could waltz in and just recognize Alberta as its own independent state. And that fast tracks the process. Now, I've said a million times over that while I love our American viewers, I love Americans, I respect our neighbors to the south, I do believe that becoming another state, a 51st state, would be more damaging to Alberta than for it to become its own independent nation and just work with the United States. I want to focus on what happened with good old Mr. Chuckles over here, Mark Carney. I know I started that with an That wasn't, no pun intended. Take a look here. Ryan Garrettson, again, fabulous X account. Go follow Ryan Garrettson. Carney now wants to decarbonize barrels of oil. What has Canada done to deserve this level of insanity within our government for so long? While the rest of the world pumps out oil, these clowns want to spend even more money to produce net zero artisanal oil. Take a look here. This also comes from Mark Nixon, but let's take a look at what Carney had to say.
Now, within the broader context of national interest, the interest is in, as mentioned in the press release.
Hold on, there's a little bit of an issue with the audio catching up. I don't want people to think this is AI, so I'm just going to give it a sec. Let me go back. Let's go.
As mentioned in the press release, decarbonized barrels. So working alongside forms of decarbonization for those barrels. That is absolutely in our interest. It provides diversification of trade partners. It provides the development of new industries. It provides economic activity across the west and into the north. So yes, there's real potential there. We took up a good deal of our time in discussions and potential to move forward on that. And if further developed, the federal government will look to advance it.
If further developed, decarbonized is running and trending. Here's what Mark Nixon had to say. Canada sits on $14 trillion of oil at $100 a barrel. We could erase the debt, cut income taxes to zero, and actually get a doctor, dream homes, and real food. But instead, we're decarbonizing oil before selling it. You can't fix this kind of stupid. Watch full YouTube video. Mark Nixon is another good source. Again, if you don't watch Mark Nixon on YouTube, let him know the Fringe sent you. Go say hello to Mark Nixon. Many people say, Fringe, why do you recommend all these other channels? Technically, you're in competition with them. We're all on the same team here. We all want to make sure you guys are getting the information you need. And this time is detrimental that you guys are getting those facts that mainstream media doesn't want to talk about. Mark Carney, if you've looked at his book Values, or if you've heard people talking about his book Values, this is exactly what his plan has been all along. And we called it. So I don't want to make this sound like a shock or a surprise. People knew that this is what was going to happen. Delay, delay, delay. Promise the world, give nothing back. Well, Danielle Smith has had enough. Danielle Smith has thrown it down. she's been very, very forward on where we need to go. Again, Mark Nixon tweeting out, Danielle Smith knows the path to Canada's prosperity. Ottawa needs to get the hell out of the way. Let's take a listen to what Danielle had to say. Now, this was just after the Premier's meeting. Danielle said in her, and we went through a Q&A on a live stream earlier this week, she said Mark Carney had until Sunday, that she was going to know where things stood. Now, I've always said that Danielle's playing two games here. It's kind of a shell game. She has to promote unity within Canada while also allowing a citizen-driven referendum. Once the citizens have spoken, she's got the right to stand up and say she has her marching orders. So what she's trying to do, and what I said she was trying to do, and this is exactly what she shows here, is that the ball was in Mark Carney's court. Alberta just wanted to work with everybody. All this is doing is driving further pushes for independence. Let's take a listen.
I think sometimes Canadians will hear this debate and say, well, that might be of benefit to Alberta, but what about my region of the country? What do you say to that?
Well, if Northern Gateway had been built, it was a 595,000 barrel a day project, Canada would have benefited to the tune of $59 billion. That's how much revenue would have flown to the federal government, and provinces would have gotten $72 billion worth of benefit. Lots of that going to Alberta, but also with the spin-offs to all of the different provinces as well. That's a lot of money that can go to build a lot of schools and hospitals and roads and infrastructure.
Now, before Danielle continues, I want you to notice something in her speech here. I know that I drop the occasional and on this channel, but when you listen to Mark Carney speaking before, the ahs, the ums, the stuttering, the stammering, this is all because he doesn't know how to sell what he's talking about. He's lying to you. Danielle Smith is prepared. She knows the facts. She's able to speak without the ahs and ums because she's speaking truth. That's the big thing to watch. Body language and structure is so important to watch whenever these guys are talking. It's how you can tell immediately. I mean, everybody always says, if you ever want to see a politician lie, just wait for them to open their mouth. But this is how you know when they're giving you straight facts or when they're trying to shovel shit in your mouth.
And so that's what is the foregone revenue because that project didn't get built when it should have. When we look at that, along with Energy East, along with Keystone XL, it just magnifies it. We could have by now had 2.5 million barrels per day more of production. That's $55 billion worth of GDP value. And the split, again, we benefit at the provincial level almost as much as the federal government does. So when the federal government is able to get those dollars, they're able to share them in the rest of the country. And that's part of the value proposition about why we want to see those projects built. It's even getting more so as we start talking to each other about, well, if we need to build 42-inch pipe, where can we get that from? Who can produce it? Right now, I think there's only one place in Canada that can. So why don't we find a way to retool our factories so we can build more of the products that we need for those major projects in-house? And that's, I think, the really constructive conversation that's now happening across the country, is that if we have an American partner that doesn't want to buy our products anymore, how do we buy more from each other? And I think that that's going to be the other way that we have additional benefits.
So Danielle, again, towing the line to give the impression that, look, we can all work together. And yes, it is important to reach other markets. Now, when she's talking about one place in Canada, she's obviously talking about Ontario. And despite the fact that Doug Ford is a closeted liberal, she's still doing what she has to get things done. Take a look here. Danielle explains why Alberta's oil and gas sector is critical to Canada's economy and how the Liberals have put national unity at risk by crushing the pipeline project.
Why tie the issue of getting a commitment for an oil pipeline to national unity?
Well, you have to understand just how damaged Alberta is by the fact that we didn't get pipelines built. If we had built Northern Gateway, if we'd built Keystone and we'd built Energy East, we'd have 2.5 million barrels more per day of production, which is $55 billion a year worth of GDP value, which is worth $17 billion to my government alone, and about an equal amount to the federal government. So this is not just an ideological argument. It's not just a minor disagreement. Oil is by far the most valuable export for Canada. Any of the projects that you will see on the ultimate list, I will tell you that a bitumen pipeline will be by far the greatest benefit to all of Canada. That's why we're going to continue to push for it, because it's a good project. It's good for our country. There's $9 trillion worth of value in discoverable and achievable reserves right now. And so why would you leave that in the ground? No other country in the world would, and we shouldn't either.
No other country should either, and they don't. And this is why Danielle keeps pushing this talking point. You'll notice she cut the journalist off because they were going to butt in when she was talking about the same points that she spoke in the previous clip, where she had to say, look, this is not just about sharing money with the federal government. This is billions and billions, if not trillions of dollars left in the ground that could essentially fix Canada's problems. Our government is ignoring that. Again, making those points is what's going to drive up Alberta to reconsider where it goes. It's going to drive up Saskatchewan to reconsider where they go. That if the government doesn't want to work with us, if it's just going to be more of the same old, what do we really have to lose? It comes down to a little bit of facts. And Jeffrey Raff tweeting out, I love Albertans who volunteer their time making these awesome graphics. Let's take a look at what would happen in Alberta alone. Alone! If Donald Trump came in tomorrow and said, Canada, Alberta, I recognize you as an independent state. People got the ball rolling quickly. I mean, look, federal taxes Albertans would no longer pay with independence. This is why independence is so crucial for Alberta. Federal personal income tax. Again, 40% or more of your paycheck. Canada Pension Plan contributions would cease. Employment insurance premiums would cease. Capital gains tax would cease. Excise duties on goods. Alcohol, tobacco, cannabis. Customs duties on imports. Corporate taxes, federal corporate income tax would cease. Capital gains tax for corporations would cease. Dividend withholding tax would cease. CPP employer contributions, EI employer premiums. Now, people are saying, well, CPP and EI are important. Yes, Alberta would institute its own forms, but based on the revenue it's saving from not taking federal corporate or personal income taxes, Alberta could use its revenues when we talk about this oil production, when we talk about the billions of dollars that are in the ground that are no longer being shared with Canada. Danielle just talked about a potential $55 billion share on one pipeline. Consumption taxes would no longer exist. Goods and services tax, GST, federal carbon tax, fuel charges, excise taxes on fuel, alcohol, tobacco, and other substances, air traveler security charge, firearms license fees, radio communication fees, digital services taxes, payroll and employment levies, CPP employer contributions, EI employer premiums, federal payroll taxes, equalization payments, there's the big one, federal health and social transfers, indirect contributions, equalization payments, federal health and social transfers, contributions to federal infrastructure projects. All of that would cease, and Alberta would get to keep that money and give it to its citizens. Instead of sharing it with the federal government, they would give it back to their citizens. Now, while people talk about, well, what about my health care? What about my old age pension and my old age security? If you were saving all of this output, and Alberta just put the same program that Canada currently offers us, not even making it better. If they just instituted the same EI program, the same pension plan, Alberta pension plan program, and you were able to save all this tax, all this money, wouldn't that alone put you in a better position? Wouldn't that alone make up for what we do with the federal government? I mean, this is where I can't understand how people still sit on the fence and say, well, I still love my country as a whole, and I'll just continue the abuse because I don't want to feel like a traitor. This is all theft that's being taken from you. This is your hard work going down the drain so that Justin Trudeau and Mark Carney and his cronies can jet set around the world, stay in lavish Jamaican hotel rooms, bill you for their travel, their expenses, their houses, their groceries, their scandals, their contracts, keeping our resources in the ground, keeping you out of work. Please tell me how this is fair. At least somebody in the House of Commons is standing up for Albertans. Good friend of the channel, friend of mine, Stephanie Cousy. How can Albertans believe a word Mark Carney says after he refuses to get rid of C-69, C-48, the production cap, and the industrial carbon tax? This is just going to make things worse for Albertans. And again, this is just driving all the positives for Alberta independence. If you go back to a video that Jordan Peterson did not too long ago, he asks in the video that, or says in the video, it's not about what Canada can offer Alberta at this point. It's, can Canada make a better offer than Donald Trump? Now, Trump does not have to make Canada a 51st state. Trump could merely say, Alberta, if you're willing to become independent, we will put XYZ contracts in place with you. We'll take your oil. We'll give you port access. We'll give you a better deal than Canada would give you in port access. Remember, Canada's not allowed to deny us port access. I don't understand how people still are on the fence about this, but let's take a listen to what Stephanie Kusi has to say.
Speaker, this Prime Minister continues to talk out of both sides of his mouth when it comes to Canadian energy. He says he wants Canada to be an energy superpower, but then says it can only be done with national consensus. He says he wants to greenlight projects, but then presents an approval process of a minimum of 2 years. He says he wants provinces.
Approval process of a minimum of 2 years. Didn't Mark Carney just say when they went to this premier's meeting, oh, this is to get down the red tape, this is to fast track production? Minimum 2 years.
To present a list of ready-to-go projects, but that comes out of yesterday's meeting with no list. How sad is it that premiers are just happy to meet with an adult after 10 years of the last guy, but he is no more serious when it comes to taking the necessary steps to unleash our energy sector? Mr. Prime Minister, if you're really committed to national unity and want to make us the economic engine of the G7, it starts with repealing a decade of anti-energy laws. C-69, C-48, the production cap, and the industrial carbon tax, get rid of them. Yeah!
Now, we all know that's not going to happen. This is all just part of the show. The point here is, and again, I'm not trying to influence anybody, I'm asking a general question. When you look at the cards on the table, when you look at everything being offered to Albertans, the potential for a financially rich future, successful jobs, job creation, job growth, if there was no federal corporate income taxes, how many offices do you think would flood to Alberta to set up shop here? Even if Alberta were to implement its own taxes, which of course I'm sure it would have to. But if they were a fraction of what Canada charges for businesses to be in this country, you think Mark Carney would try to move Brookfield to Alberta? There's a little joke. I don't think it would happen. But nonetheless, this is why Alberta needs to consider its independence. This is why Saskatchewan needs to consider its independence. If you live in another province in the country, you need to start asking your representatives, why the hell are we still here? Why are we putting up with this? This government constantly and continues to constantly show us that they have no interest in working with us. It's all about them. It's all about Mark Carney's values. Let me know what you think down below. Do you think Donald Trump's going to make an offer we can't refuse? Do you think Alberta's going to gain its independence? Do you think that the argument is strong for Alberta independence? Let me know your thoughts down below. If it's your first time here, I hope this video's earned your subscription. Make sure you hit that button, turn on your bell for all notifications so that you never miss a beat whenever this channel goes live or drops new videos. We talk about everything the mainstream media won't. So make sure to join me not only for our videos, but every Friday night live for Friday Night Fringe as I sit down with the beautiful Mrs. Fringe. We go back and forth throughout everything that happened this week in politics, everything we know that's coming up ahead, as well as your Q&A within the greatest YouTube community on the platform. I look forward to chatting with you guys outside of making these videos, but I most importantly look forward to chatting with you this Friday night, starting at 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central, here on the channel. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you have a great rest of your day. I'll catch you on the next one.